Fantastic presentation by Fred, and I've had a chance to talk to him a bit over the past week or so, and he's a very sharp guy, so that was amazing. Okay, so being able to find the exact person you're looking for among the vast array of forum attendees with just one touch, it's not just a dream. In the official Blockchain Life app, you can easily engage and chat with other attendees, get to know each other a bit, and perhaps propose a meeting that could potentially lead to a fruitful collaboration and achievement. There's a lot more to it, and I recommend downloading the Blockchain Life app as soon as it's possible and exploring all its features. Access to the application has been sent to your email with the subject Networking App Access. Who's downloaded the app? Raise your hand. Who hasn't downloaded the app? Raise your hand. Who's not going to raise their hand no matter what I say, even if my life was on the line? Great, love you too. Okay, anyway, and thanks to our diamond sponsor, TikTask. It is the official distributor for Bitmain, offering competitive prices and great customer service. They ensure security for investors with 25 million, deposit held with Bitmain. Over 10,000 miners trade through TikTask every month. Visit them at booth D4. And now our next session will focus on, and this is a big panel, our next session will focus on the technical trends that are expected to shape the future of blockchain in the next 3 to 5 years. I'd like to know that. Panelists will explain these innovations in simple terms, thank God, addressing topics like sharding, zero-knowledge proofs, and layer 1 advances. They will share insights on how these developments will impact user adoption, transaction speed, and overall blockchain efficiency. But before we start, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this panel, MyCoinPool. So discover MyCoinPool's innovative platform, empowering projects with Launchpad, NFT integration, and blockchain e-commerce solutions. Visit Startup Booth M to learn more and get involved. So I'd like to invite onto the stage another Cardano guest, the CTO of the Cardano Foundation, Gregorio Zanetti. Gregorio, co-founder at Celestia Labs, Mustafa Al-Bassam, co-founder of Flare Network, Hugo Filion, co-founder of Tezos, Arthur Brightman, CEO of VeChain, Sunny Liu, and the moderator, I follow him personally, finance reporter at CNN Business Arabic, Abdallah Al-Jawad. Big round of applause for this huge panel. Big round of applause, high energy. There you go, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Abdallah Al-Juaid, the finance reporter at CNN Business Arabic. First of all, let me extend my gratitude to Blockchain Life team for having me here and for giving me also that chance to moderate this insightful panel with our esteemed speaker. Our topic for today is our future. It is tomorrow, it's the future of us. The blockchain core technical advancements. Let me start, please, by asking our speakers to introduce yourself, please. Let's start.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Giorgio, not Gregorius, and I'm the CTO at the Cardano Foundation.
Please. Hello, everyone. I'm Mustafa. I'm the co-founder of Celestia and CEO of Celestia Labs.
Hello, I'm Hugo. I'm the co-founder of Flare.
Hi, I'm Arthur, and I'm a co-founder of Tezos.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Sunny. I'm a co-founder and CEO of VeChain.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start by the first question. Some argued that sharding introduces complexity in network design. So how do you reconcile this complexity with the need to maintain simplicity for developers and for users? We'll start by you, Mr. Giorgio, please.
Well, I think the complexity is not so much if you have a good team of architects. You're just compromising decentralization for vertical scaling. So I just see as a tool for layer ones and blockchain to find their right trade-off between speed and decentralization. I think with a good team of engineers, you can design a sound sharding protocol.
Mr. Mustafa.
So I mean, I think when you talk about sharding, the kind of like the current way that most chains do sharding is through layer 2s and rollups. If you look at the Ethereum roadmap, for example, sharding was originally part of the roadmap, but it was such a complicated roadmap that they decided to simplify it and just use layer 2s and rollups. And rollups are basically a form of sharding, but they're just basically permissionless sharding. And they kind of, in some way, reduce a lot of the complexity because, at least from the core protocol perspective, because it just allows independent companies to create their own rollups, and so the complexity is kind of shifted away from the base layer to the rollups themselves. However, that still that does come with some disadvantages, such as you're making a lot of trade-offs, like you're losing seamless composability across applications across these rollup chains. So, and as a result of that, now there's maybe like 100 different bridging providers or companies focusing on bridging, and that kind of introduces a lot of complexity. However, I think at the end of the day, it will end up being worth it, because just because something is more complex doesn't mean that it's inherently worse. Like the steam engine is more complex than the horse, but it's still better.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Hugo, your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think sharding was abandoned broadly, as the key layer one innovation in the ETH sort of ecosystem. And as you said, it's gone to L2s. The trade-off is very simple. You lose the ability to make, super atomic transactions. So, I mean, it's just a trade-off.
Please.
Well, I don't think there's a single definition of sharding, and so the answer really depends on what it is. Some people do execution sharding over multiple threads. Some people try to do it over multiple clients. You can do it with rollups, as Mustafa mentioned. Back in 2017, I wrote a blog post about why we're not pursuing sharding as a scaling strategy for Tezos. That was very focused on like the sharding roadmap of Ethereum around that time, which was a gigantic mess and had just like no chance of working. I'm quite optimistic today about rollup as a scaling technology, but while most people think of it as horizontal scaling, so sharding, you shard across like many rollup, I think that rollups are actually fantastic vertical scaling solutions because they shift the security properties from an honest majority, which is difficult to achieve and where you need tons of decentralization, to a single honest party, or even if you use ZK rollups, to zero an honest party. So once you shift those assumptions, you can actually scale vertically without compromising decentralization. And so that's an approach that we've been working on with several labs working on in the Tezos ecosystem.
Thank you.
Well, on top of all of the panelists just talked about, I just want to add something on top of that is actually when we think about the developers, we should not only just think about the technical developers, but also the business developers. And honestly, I believe in the next bull run, the viable applications, like which kind of the application can be viable, accessible to the normal people, will be the center of attention. And I think try to simplify that process, or by leveraging the different tools or different emerging technology, not only blockchain but also the AI, IoT, make it as a total solution, could ease the process to build the application. That will be the key to simplify the whole process and, eventually benefits to the mass adoptions.
Thank you. I'll start with you regarding the second question, which is how do zero-knowledge proofs enhance both security and also safety? And in your opinion, what are the barriers to wider adoption of ZPKs today?
Well, zero-knowledge proof has been, alive for quite a few years. It's not really like, let's say, strange or new technology. Actually, it's very useful, valuable technology. Although, right now in the crypto world, I think the meme coin is more trendy or hot than the ZK, which I believe ZK is much more valuable.
What's the reason here? What's the reason here?
I think it's lack of the applications, like where to adopt that, right? ZK is very useful. For example, in Europe, everybody knows GDPR. And every application, especially in the crypto side, when we think about mass adoptions to help the normal people, and the GDPR is something you have to comply. And I would say ZK is just perfect solution for that. However, is how we have that kind of application at a scale, and then people will need that, people will use that. The demand will drive the adoption of such kind of cool technology. I think trend is a trend, right? We have seen so many trends in the crypto side, short waves, up and downs. But eventually, only the cool technology, the real useful, valuable technology, eventually becomes the jewels of the crowns. And just waiting people to discover that by applications.
I agree. Thank you. Mr. Arthur.
Yes, so in a 2017 blog post, we described ZK rollups as a scaling strategy. I think it's super interesting technology, and the reason it's valuable is that you can basically outsource all the execution to someone else. Let someone else take care of the execution, and when they're done, they can come back and they can prove that it all went right. And before that time, ZK had mostly been thought of as technology for privacy, but it's actually a great scaling technology. Now, while I've been, I think, very, very early on the side of pushing ZK for scaling today, I think we're a little too enthusiastic about it. And the reason is the cost of execution is still very high. We're still orders of magnitude slower than optimistic rollup. And as people want to build more applications, want to use modern programming languages, mainstream programming languages, you need to be able to execute a lot of instructions very quickly and not have like a very, very fine-tuned set of instructions. And as a result, I would say that optimistic rollups are going to dominate in terms of performance for a while. The compute cost for ZK is still extremely high, and I think will remain high for a little while.
Thank you, Mr. Hugo. As Flare Labs also, what do you think? What are the barriers? What are the barriers of the wider adoption of ZKPs in the layer 1 protocols?
I suppose at Flare we're more interested, again, like everything has trade-offs. So with zero knowledge proofs, you've got a relatively high compute cost to calculate the proofs. It's say 1,000 times more expensive on average than using something like a trusted execution environment, confidential compute. So we're much more interested in TEEs. And in going through that path rather than ZK. We think ZK is interesting for privacy, but for computation, we're more interested in TEs.
Thank you. Please, Mr.
Yeah, so I mean, our philosophy at Celestia is that a kind of like maximally decentralized and scalable base layer or layer 1 network should like just be a base layer where you post proofs, specifically ZK proofs, ideally. And that's what we're building at Celestia, because Celestia does not have a smart contract environment like Ethereum. Like we've taken the approach that a base layer should be as minimal as possible, so that you don't have scalability issues or issues like state growth. And a base layer should just be for posting data and for posting proofs, and all the applications and the computation happens effectively on these roll-up chains, or effectively layer 2 shards. And ZK is a very important part of that, because ZK allows you to extend the functionality of the base layer without requiring the base layer to execute the transactions themselves. And that's a very powerful technique. And that's actually how Bitcoin also, like people are talking about building ZK rollups on Bitcoin. So that also allows you to extend the functionality of Bitcoin in ways that people have never thought possible before. It's true that right now the costs of ZK proofs are relatively high, but every year they're coming down dramatically, especially with advancements in proving systems and GPU proving and stuff like that. But in the interim, even if it's too slow to ZK prove all the execution directly, in the interim you can still do ZK proofs or fraud proofs. So instead of having to ZK proof all the computation, you could just decide, let's use fraud proofs, but let's create ZK proofs of the fraud proofs.
Mr. Choshu.
I love zero knowledge proofs, and I think they are helping to solve so many different problems: scalability, data authentication, identity use cases. Ultimately, I think zero knowledge proofs will allow us to get really unstoppable and anonymous blockchains. And maybe the biggest obstacle would be regulations, because once we have an unstoppable blockchain that nobody can see inside, the regulators will knock at our door.
Also, according to the regulation, what's missing today, in your opinion, regarding the regulation?
A lot of it is missing. I think we are using an old framework to address a new technology. We are using, things for Earth to explore Mars, and we need to study more deeply and educate society and policymakers about blockchain and make them understand what it is that we are talking about.
Thank you. I'll move to the AI section now. As AI become more powerful, many fear the misuse or the bias or manipulated data. How can blockchain technology will help to solve this issue? I'll start with Mr. Arthur, please.
There's a few things, but to be honest, not a lot. So, like in that category, a lot of people will come towards traceability. But let's imagine what a traceability solution would look like, for example, for the authenticity of a picture. What I think will happen is that a lot of camera equipment, especially like mobile phones, will start using secure enclaves to sign pictures. So you'll take a picture, and then your Samsung phone or your iPhone will have the key from Samsung or Apple certify that yes, this was taken by this phone. And you'll still have an analog hole. Maybe you can take a picture of something else. Maybe they have depth sensors, so it'll be a little bit of a battle, but at least it'll make it much more difficult to fix this. And then at some point, way down the chain, I guess maybe you can timestamping on a blockchain. And timestamping has been around since before Bitcoin. You had the Haber-Storneda blockchain that was being published in the Financial Times. So timestamping is nice, it works. Is just not exciting. Especially if you look in terms of number of transactions, you could have one transaction a day on a blockchain costing 1 cent, and you would use that transaction to notarize millions and millions of documents. So yes, there's a small part to play. I would say 99% of this is on the secure enclave actually signing the image. That's the hard part. But a lot of people who want to sell blockchain will sell it as a solution to everything, and it can play a small part, but it's definitely not the ingredient, and the total economic opportunity for blockchains to do something like this is limited to pennies.
Thank you. Mr. Sonny, can we have your answer, please?
Yeah, well, I would say AI and blockchain is working like best buddies. They're working side by side for the different type of aspects. Actually, we're doing that. We launched the new ecosystem, which is called vbetter.com. It's a DAO ecosystem to support the different type of application to incentivize individuals to do better actions or make a better choice on daily basis. And AI just make feasibility so much, let's say, executionable or practical, actually. Just think example, how do you verify your small actions on your daily basis? Right? You can take a photo, and AI can help you to identify that. Yeah, I know that accuracy is still long way to go, but at least we can have something to start. And more picture to feed to the engine, and the AI will be more smarter to verify your different actions. And then blockchain, the smart contract just based on your actions, based on the value coming from the fractional effort, and give you rewards right away. So it's just working best buddies side by side. I believe in the future, AI and blockchain just everywhere for the different type of applications.
Thank you. Mr. Hugo, please, your answer.
I think your question was how blockchains can make AI more essentially robust and less biased, right? Yeah. So I think there are ways that you can use AI with blockchains today, but I don't think that is related to your question. I think I've seen a lot of talk about decentralized training. Personally, I'm quite bearish on that because I think it will never be able to compete with very, very large data centers like Google and Amazon who are buying nuclear power. The cost of decentralized training is very unlikely to come down so substantially that it was economically feasible. So from our perspective at Flare, we're very focused on how can we use consensus to essentially de-risk what an AI agent or what an AI model is outputting. And we think that we have an interesting angle on that.
Thank you. Mr. Mustafa.
Yeah, I guess there's kind of like two different questions that have been discussed. I think the first one is like how blockchains can be used to verify kind of like real versus AI stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of an interesting one because kind of like a big problem on the internet that has existed for a long time is this idea of Sybil resistance. Like if you go on Twitter, there's lots of bots, and that problem is only getting worse with AI. Like how do you differentiate between like an AI user versus a real user? And that's where kind of like in blockchain systems, there's a lot of experimentation around things like proof of humanity or proof of personhood. So it's like how can I prove that an action was done by a real person and not like some Sybil or a bot or an AI? And that's basically like the whole point of things like WorldCoin, right? Like WorldCoin was created by the co-founder of OpenAI specifically so that you can differentiate humans between AI in an internet where it's hard to differentiate that. But in terms of the other part of the question, which is like how do we kind of like integrate AI with blockchains, I think a kind of like an interesting element of that is this idea of on-chain AI. So like we have smart contracts, right? But imagine if we can embed like AI agents on-chain that can do certain tasks, and that AI agent, like you could have a DAO or a decentralized autonomous organization that's run by an AI agent, for example, that might pay people to do tasks, for example. And that's something that we're exploring at Celestia because there's like that's a use case that inherently requires a lot of on-chain data usage because these data models are inherently very large. So there's people exploring use cases on Celestia where let's upload on-chain AI models on-chain, and different organizations or different users might have different models, and then you can execute them on-chain, and those AI models basically kind of like exist on-chain.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, I agree with my panelists. I don't think that AI and blockchain would marry as two technologies. However, AI is changing society, and where I see blockchain shines in post-AGI, UBI society is to have transparent governance, identity system where Sybil attack resistant, where everybody can transparently contribute in a democracy and vote and voice their opinion. Data authenticity, digital identity, it's going to be where in the age of AI, blockchain will shine.
Thank you. I'll break the ice of the technical words here by asking, please, I need your answers. Where do you see the crypto markets headed between Harris and Donald Trump? You can start, please, Mr. Sonny.
Well, I think, I have been in the crypto side for 11, 12 years. So this time is a full cycle. Every 4 years is a cycle in the crypto side, in the crypto market. And we call it like a crypto workup, right? Every 4 years, you work very hard for the first 3.5 years, that's bear market. And then you enjoy the last 6 months, which is the bull market. So every 4 years is like that. But I feel like this cycle is so much different because, well, I think the signal was starting from the January when the Bitcoin ETF approved. So that means the players are different. There are more institutional investors coming to the space. Actually, just a few weeks ago, I was in New York. I met with some of the institutional investors. They gave me really fresh ideas, like the different than the normal crypto perspective. They're actually looking at the fundamentals. When I say fundamentals, it's more than just like TVL or liquidity or transaction volume, that kind of the crypto native fundamentals. They're actually asking the question like, okay, what kind of problem you try to solve? What's your value proposition? What's your market opportunity? What's your growth story? This kind of fundamentals. So I would say this time the market might be really different. Depends on what you really do or what kind of the deliverables you can push to the market. In summary, I believe it's the new era about the applications. So it's like the same thing happening in the internet. In the beginning, the good companies are IBM, Cisco, AT&T, those kind of infrastructure companies. Actually, people are looking for where's the Facebook, where's Google, where's Apple, those kind of application companies. Eventually, application will really drive the mass adoption, bring the entire crypto world to the next level. So in summary, I believe the future is about application. Anybody can have viable, accessible application to the normal user will sit in the center of attentions.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur.
Sorry, so I didn't quite hear the question. I heard it was about Harris and Trump, but...
Yeah, between Harris and Trump and what we've seen regarding the SEC, and it was very tough on the crypto leaders and the crypto community. Between Harris and Trump, where are you seeing the market headed, the crypto market headed?
I mean, I don't. First of all, I don't think people should necessarily be single issue voters, right? There's a lot of issues out there, and there's a lot of reasons to pick different candidates. But like on the crypto issue specifically, it's pretty clear that the Democratic Party has waged an all-out war on the crypto industry. From the banking side, the SEC, all sides. So I don't think this is going to change. Maybe like there will be a marginal improvement because it's hard to get worse than it is. But that's pretty clear. So that's. I don't think there's a mystery here.
Okay, thank you. You have an answer about that?
Well, that's just one thing. The nice thing is, like, despite the all-out, despite basically like an all-out war, the industry has been extremely resilient, and what's been wonderful has been the resiliency of the U.S. court system, with important court victory being won over the past couple of years, which shows that even with an entire political apparatus, even with the entire U.S. government fighting this thing, the industry has managed to be resilient and thrive.
Thank you. Yes.
I think they're probably not the biggest issue, although they really are being seen as the biggest issue right now, although I would note only one of them has a crypto token. But I think generally the bigger issue for me is, we find ourselves in a really weird place where we have institutional adoption through ETFs, and yet the largest product in our industry is meme coins, excluding stable coins, which are probably the most valid use case of blockchain today. For me, and I think I echo Sunny's point, which is what we want to see is applications that are intrinsic to people's lives. As yet, we're not there, and probably because the infrastructure is not yet capable, and that's why at Flare we're looking at off-chain compute.
Thank you.
So I think while we're discussing politics, I think it's important to remember why we're here in the first place, because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was created. The whole point of it is that it was created to create an economic or financial system outside of the jurisdiction of nation states, and that isn't directly affected by nation state politics and that kind of thing. That's the main cool thing about crypto. It's like the Bitcoin created a system where the laws aren't enforced by nation states; it's enforced by cryptography network. So maybe in the short term, maybe the election results, people care about that, or the market cares about that. In the long term, it doesn't really matter. They're all the same.
Thank you.
Yeah, on the politics, no comment. Let's just focus on building unstoppable technologies, regardless of the politicians.
Yes, but let me clarify. It wasn't a political question. We know that every single person of them is going in another direction. So this is why I asked this question. It was like a kind of fun question. So I think we only can ask one more question. Please try to be concise as much as you can. The last question is, what are the main technical bottlenecks currently preventing mass adoption of the blockchain, and how do you see them being resolved in the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay, I'll go first. I maybe have a controversial take. I think we are not at the point that we have technical bottlenecks. I think every use case can be solved with the technology we have available. I think the bottlenecks are now more from a solving real problem point of view. You can pick any blockchain today and scale to many number of transactions. You can build your video game, your DeFi protocol, and as an engineer, I don't see any unsurmountable barrier. So I just think now with the last 3-4 years, we have invested so much in building infrastructure. It's now time to utilize it. So I don't see any clear bottleneck.
Thank you.
So I think everyone always says, "Oh, there's too much infrastructure and not enough applications." But I think I'll do the contrarian take, which is that we actually need more infrastructure, and there isn't enough infrastructure, and that's the reason why we don't have enough applications. Because I think my benchmark is the killer use case of crypto should be payments. Why after 15 years of crypto we don't have a killer payments application where you can just pay people even if it's in stablecoins? I would argue, historically speaking, that's because of a lack of infrastructure. Even Solana with its 2000 TPS has not been able to kind of scale that use case. But now I think recently with technologies like rollups and off-chain execution, we're starting to see kind of really cool, really good applications of that. There's a protocol called Pay, which is a very Venmo-like experience for payments.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, I'd echo that infrastructure is still lacking. I still think it's too hard to use, public and private keys for 99% of people. I think once you solve that, probably using some form of infrastructure, then you've got, a route to mass adoption. Then people just need to build the applications.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur.
Yeah, so I agree that we're not bound by fundamental, technical issues. It's more a lot of quality of life things that could be, infrastructures, good API providers, this type of things. They're also saying developer experience is pretty bad right now on blockchains, and one of the things that we've been working on is onboarding developers using mainstream programming languages so that you can use any language, because the technological stack is not just theoretical. It's also, there's a massive amount of libraries and tooling that exists for mainstream programming languages, and right now, we're bottlenecked by a few thousand developers in the world using kind of tools which have been poorly put together to try to write smart contracts that break all the time. So we're trying to change that, and I think it's been a real bottleneck.
Thank you. Please.
Well, honestly, I don't think there is. I agree with Giorgio. Actually, there is no let's say technical bottom or technical barriers right now. Actually, there are many infrastructures ready, like a custodian or third-party social login can adopt a normal non-crypto user. You don't need to worry about the public key, private key, those kind of hassles. But I vote for applications. Applications should be the king of the new trend. Then the question will be, how are you going to build up the application so easily to address the real problems, right? So I would say, if we talk about any technical barriers, that will be quite in a high level, or in a let's say big picture, what those AI, IoT, and blockchain can really combine, can really emerge to generate that kind of solution. That's a number one. Number two is how we can make the builders are so much easier to build application. Actually, I set up the goal to my CTO. Okay, for any developers, even they don't know about the coding, 2 weeks. That should be the time window to build any decentralized application. Because other than the internet, internet, when we think about the Web 2, it's a giant company, tech company. They can have a huge technical team to build an amazing platform. That's great. But in the Web 3, it's more decentralized way. So builders should coming from everywhere. It's like I only wanted to build something to serve my friends and families or people I know, maybe just 100 users, that's fine. That's a beauty of the decentralized way. So in summary, I would say, having some tool to allow the normal people, even non-technical people, to build decentralized application in 2 weeks way, that will be really lead to the massive adoption for the blockchain technology.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please join your hands together to thank our esteemed speakers. See you next year. Thank you so much. On time. Please.